Thank you for
in Warsaw, Poland. And it is my pleasure to lead today's talk, which is dedicated to something that we will all experience sooner or later, directly or indirectly. So we will talk about death and how to talk about that in a photo book. We will talk about this subject together with fantastic artists. So on my right side, sorry for my French pronunciation, please forgive me. So on my right side is Christine Delory-Momberger.
No, it's German. Christine Delory-Momberger.
Momberger, okay, and the artist who made a book titled Le Noir. On my left, from the far left, is Lia Pradal, designer of the book Collectionner les Tombes by André Chabot. Then Yann Castanier, the author of the book Je vous regarde disparaître, and Hubert Humka from Poland, out of the book Eternal You, the book that I had the privilege to publish. If we could start talking about that from very short descriptions of your books, okay? So who has the mic? Yeah, okay, so Jan, you start.
Okay, so I start. Hello everyone, so my book is called Je vous regarde disparaître. It's a story about my grandparents. On 15 years, I followed them because my grandfather had Alzheimer's disease for 2 years, and then he died. And 5 years after, my grandmother had also Alzheimer's disease, and I followed her for 7-8 years. And the book is all about how we are looking at someone who is going to disappear, but he is still alive. So first of all, I did picture in black and white because my grandfather was blocked in the past. And I used another process for my grandmother. Yeah, that's it. It's just normal color, like a film. It's all analogic. And then my grandmother, she went ill, so I used perished negative film. And like this, the colors are a little bit blurred. And then it was worse and worse. So I used other process. And it was like I opened the camera. And yeah, that's it. And so you can see that they are going to disappear on the picture as the alteration of reality is going in her mind. And finally, it's all the neurons that are going to be over the picture. So mainly that's it.
My book is in 2 parts. It's always about the disappearing of my mother, just not Alzheimer, but degenerative disease. And the first part is just one picture and poems. Why? Because she went into a house, I don't know what it's called, so for people who just have lost their head. No, it's just terrible because all the people are really very strange there. And my mother, my beautiful mother, my strong mother, was amidst these other people. And every time it was so hard to go to see her and just had to feel that duty, a love duty to go to see her. But every time when I got out, I was completely kaput in German, completely fall apart. And I tried to make photography from her in this house. And every photography, none of them were good. So I just have them, but I could not use this, and I did not recognize them. And that's the only picture, this 2 weeks before she died, where I could recognize her in a beauty, a strongness, and she was very quiet. So it's a kind of diary with poems, the first part. And the second part, the first part is called À bout de vie, at the end of the life. And the second part is Et après, and then, what's happened then. And then I made picture, and it was practically a refiguration. You understand what I mean with refiguration of my life, the life of my family, life of emigration, because my mother comes from Italian, my daughter there, and this is kind of transmission to me, because this book means the end of a memorial circle I made about the story of my family, to try to get the memory, because my mother did not tell me about this filiation, because as immigrated in France, Italianish immigrated in the 20 years, it was not very good to be a stranger and to come from Italy. No. And so, and at the end, and then there is a text too, this time not in poems, where I'm telling more or less what I'm telling you now. And the end, the last sentence is toujours le vivre va. The life is going on. The life is always going on. Life is always going on as long as you're not dead.
So the book I'm talking about is Collectionner les tombes. It would mean to collect tombstone. I created this book because I met a photographer called André Chabot, which is 83 years old now and live in Paris. And actually I met him in Père Lachaise, in the cemetery, where he built his own tombstone chapel, but he's still alive. And it's a chapel with 2 tons leica made of granite. So I was really curious about it, and some of the guardian of the cemetery told me this person that dedicated his life photographing cemetery. So we met and we started to discover all this archive together, because he basically lives inside his photography. He made more than 200,000 pictures of cemetery all around the world, more than 70 countries. So I proposed him to build an archive of his books, of his pictures. It's built in 2 parts. The first one, I tried to create it's like walking around a global cemetery, and you don't have any indexation, just some numbers that are very discrete. And you have another part in the book, the annexes, where you can understand all the different places where the tombstones are from. And to build this book, the photographer gave me 45,000 pictures on a hard drive. And it was really interesting because he gave me total freedom to build the book I want with it. And he almost discovered it at the end of the process.
Hello, everyone. Eternal You. This is my book, and I treat this project under the same title, Eternal You, as my private journey in searching for silence. Also, it's kind of meditation, or let's say project about good death. I visited several places spread all over the Great Britain, from Scotland to South England, and these places are called natural burial grounds. So in these places, people, when passed away, they are buried in the forest, without any monuments, without any religious symbols, no flowers, no candles allowed. They are buried in the biodegradable coffins, and also the person or the family afterwards can pick up what kind of tree the person would would like to be when after passed away, and it's being planned on the corpses. So it's not a kind of documentary project. I'm not focusing on people who run these places or locations. I treat it like more globally, like I like the idea of coming back to the nature, that we are part of something bigger than we are, that with our death nothing ends. Now we are humans, we have hands, arms, skin. Afterwards we have branches, we have bark. So yeah, also for me this dimensions focus on nature and environment is also important. What I explore is that we not necessarily have to be polluters, we can be fertilizers as well.
Being visual artists, why you decided to talk about death in a format of a book?
For me, it's because I'm mainly a photojournalist. I work for the national press, and it's complicated in national press to have such pictures, because to approach death, you need time and you need space, and like a 15 years work in the press, it's impossible. No one is going to give you money for 15 years to do it. And then I have pictures of my grandparents. They are dying. And this kind of picture, when you see someone dying, I was literally here for my grandfather. You have to bring this picture. It's like you can't just put it in the middle of a newspaper, like, bam, someone is dead. So the picture is just coming after maybe 30, 40, 50 pages of my grandfather dying. You need to bring it. It's another way to have narrative, and I think it's more deep and nuanced. Can we say it in English? I don't know. So that's why.
What I find interesting on the work of André Chabot is that he's still trying to create an archive of funeral around the world. And there were this play of making like a double archive, which the book is the perfect shape for it, to offer an archive to the work of the photographer, but also to try to archive an idea of funeral, how it was till now, because it's interesting with the book because funeral today are really changing, and symmetries is becoming like an old object. It will be soon considered as museum. A lot of people consider that it will actually disappear because we cannot continue to use symmetry as we do because of surpopulation, because of pollution, because of a lot of things. So there were display of double archiving, and to make a book and not an exhibition is, of course, the best way to have an object that keep on time.
For me, I really like communicate with the audience through the exhibitions, but also through the books. It's different. It's more intimate. You can take a book. It's obvious, but here, what was most important for me, I could see this project also through the eyes of of the book designer. So we wanted to meet each other on these pages, and I wanted to see her perspective, giving her my images, my ideas, and to see what will happen. I think that not necessarily every project should be published in a book, but this particular project, I found it might be interesting, and you can do it in a different way than at the exhibition. In the book, there is a very intimate text written from the first perspective, someone who died in the forest, and describes how his or her body is decomposing and turning into cosmic dust. So, of course, you can read it at the exhibition, but when I imagine that someone is going deeper into this project, that I'm imagining that the person is sitting and reading by herself, himself. So,
for me, to make these books, first of all, was making, trying to make picture, as I said before. I did not succeed, so I wrote. And it was the whole process, first part and second part, was to help me going through disappearing of my mother. First of all, disappearing from our realities, because we could not have any conversation anymore. I just saw, as I said, going around with these strange people were worse as she was. And it's to homage to her strength, to her beauty, to her. She came from, I want to say, nowhere, and from nothing, and she just was full human being, and her strength was, of course, complicated for me, because I had found myself and my own strength. That's why I left France and I went to Germany and became German. So I had to make a border between her and I. But at the end, of course, I just felt we are the same kind of woman. And this book is that. The second part tells that. So homage, so that I want to show you a picture I did not show. This picture, she's just dead since some hours. And I went there, I made the picture. I made finally a picture of her. And this picture, I kept it. It was in an exhibition in Maison La Photographie Robert Doisneau this autumn. And you see, it's not an effect I did. She's there and she's on the way, disappearing to the sky, where the world, to Lune Noire, Black Moon. She's going away. And it's maybe because we are speaking about grave. Maybe this picture and it's a kind of grave, this book from her, but to a celebration to her and resurrection of myself with this book. I don't know if you understand what I say in English. If I could speak German, it would be better as a foreign language.
So we have two very personal projects in the discussion and two of general meaning. But I have an impression that all of the books somehow talk about you, not about people you photographed, places that are included in the book, but they are about you, the artist. Would you agree with this?
Yes, completely, and what I told you just now. So.
Yeah, what I can say, like I mentioned, this kind of my journey. It's a kind of a way that I'm dealing with my mortality. So, yeah, everything I do, it's about me.
Yeah, it's more about how I kept a link with my grandmother and my grandfather, because as they disappear, I was lost in them. And especially my grandfather, I was very young when he started to have the disease. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I didn't know him at the end. So like when I started, the pictures, I was 22. So it was a way to approach him, to know him, even if it wasn't the same person, it was a way about it. And with my grandmother, it was, I didn't want her to disappear, so it was a way to keep her with me. And the book is, it made her eternal, like the title of the book. So it's also about me in the keeping memories, in fact. So
me, I would say that I always had a relationship with symmetries, as a lot of people. And what I enjoyed on the way that André Chabot works and what I had to do the book, it's this thing of treating death as a friend somehow, to like always keep it close so you're not scared of it. There is something it was like very therapeutic to dive into this archive for 2 years. And I'm really impressed with this photographer, how he really lives inside his apartment. Everything is connected to death, which you can see on the annex, because there is like a little documentary of his studio, his apartment. You can see pictures, how it looks. And this thing of always keeping this idea of this is really close by and not being afraid of it.
We could consider that talking about myself is the proper approach to talk about that. Would you say yes to this? So we have one common thing in all of the books already. Okay, super. During the work of on your book, Jan, you can see that there are images, but there are also some notes that you wrote to your grandmother and to your grandfather.
Yeah, I speak from the first perspective. I wrote some of the memories, and I didn't do some research about their life. I wanted only the memories I had from my grandfather and my grandmother. For the story, my grandfather, for example, he was sent to Algeria to do the war, and some stuff I heard in my family. Okay, maybe he was coming back by boat, and he was hidden in a big box. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't care about it. I just say it because it's the story of the family, and it's part of the myth, you know. And it's like my grandfather is this for me. I don't care if it's true or not. And then with my grandmother, so I tell the story of my grandmother and this of my grandfather in this way. Maybe we wait in a second. And then about my grandmother, it was the fact that it was again the same story, and we had again to look at someone who is going to die. And honestly, we were, all my family, fed up with this. Like we were, okay, 5 years ago, it's going back. And so there is this part of, you have to be here for her, but you don't want to be here for her, you know. And it's a very special feeling because in the same time, it's my grandmother. I wanted to take care of her, but in the same time, I didn't want to be in these places like retreat, a bad retirement house. And so you have to deal with it because sometimes you are even nervous, about going in it. So I told a story, and the way I kept the link, and even she was yelling at me. Sometimes she was saying me, asshole, go away. So you have to deal also with this, like it's your grandmother, but at some other time it's not. So I tell everything about this, and it's more about a book about how I lived the disappearance of my grandparents. In the same time, it's about how I lived the disappearance of my grandparents and how they disappear because of the disease. It's more a social book on the disease than a scientific or technical book, if I can say so.
And when you decided that each part of the book should be photographed using different technique?
Okay, so it was not planned when I started. Honestly, I started the pictures. I didn't know why. It was just my grandfather was going to die, and maybe it was a way for me to get in touch with him, I said, and also to approach death, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. The only way I started, it's black and white pictures, as I said, because he was stuck in the past, and the black and white was symbolic for this, and it's a very harsh black and white, you know. It's like analogic, but I push the development to make it more contrast. And my grandmother, as she was in reality, I let her in her house alone with sharp color. Then I didn't do anything for this picture for 5 years, and then my grandmother went ill again. And I asked myself how I'm going to continue this, because I couldn't go back in black and white because my grandfather was in black and white. So it's when I decided to use also color film, but to do it with alteration of the film to emphasize it on the alteration of reality for her. And then it was worse and worse, and I put worse and worse alteration. As I said, like I opened the camera and then I put acid on prints that I scan. And the idea of the book, in fact, was only after 13 years, 2 years before she died. And she was not supposed to die, in fact, because we decided with Revelator, which is the publisher, to do the book before she died. Because we didn't want to repeat the story. We wanted it to like, okay, maybe someone is still here. And she died when we did the book. And during the process. So I was like, okay, how we are going to end it now? And so I don't want to. I don't want you to know the last picture because it's kind of surprise. So there is another process at the end to make it.
Okay. But let me put your book in wider context. It is the third book that Hubert published, and all of them, by accident, let's say, are about death. So the first book was with the pictures taken from the police archive with people who committed suicide or who were murdered. So we're talking here about sudden death. The second book was about landscape that of the places that experienced something difficult in the past and how our perception changes if we know what happened there in the past. And here we have a book about this natural, I would say, process of living and dying and coming back to the nature. I'm afraid to ask about your next book.
As Grzegorz mentioned, two previous books, were devoted to sudden death. I was showing their victims of homicides, also suicides. I visited 13 places which were silent witness of some tragic events, various. In the anniversary of these events, I was focusing on this idea that when the space and time crossing and maybe something bad coming out for people to the daily life. And I treat this book as a different book. Like I mentioned, it's a book, it's a project about good death. I feel it when I'm going through this book or to this project, I feel like it's kind of silence, easy, not like in the previous project. I promised you that the next project won't be about that. And basically those 2-3 books are not specifically about that. That is in the background. It's more about evilness, evil man, and so on, not in this case, but in previous projects. So I can't tell because last time when during the interview, someone asked me what would be your next project, and I said something about landscapes, and it turns to this tragic places which were silent witness of these tragic events. So I can't tell. I try, but we'll see.
Lia, the book that you designed is divided into, I would say, different sections in which you show different elements of the graves. Was it your idea or was it the idea of the author?
No, it was my idea because how I was explaining a while ago, I worked alone. He didn't want to be part of the process. It was like what we call a carte blanche.
Okay, so he saw the final effect of your work.
Yeah.
And his first impression was?
I made a in-between. Like in the process, I showed him like the way to print risograph because I didn't want him to be shocked because it really transformed his image. But no, he was really happy because he's not in like the photography book world, so he was quite surprised. It was like a new way to see his own work, so he was really happy about it. And about the way I built the book, created categories inside the archive of André of things that you can see in a cemetery, like the chapels, all the stone symbols, the very low, simple tombs, and on. Or one chapter is dedicated to the crypts. And every time I try to use maps of cemeteries, and I design like this. I try to follow like grid. Like French cemeteries are really built with very straight lines and all, and I use this kind of grid. And for example, American or English cemetery are much more like in between trees and more wild. So all the grid are changing from a chapter to another in this way.
And in your case, Christine, was it difficult to talk about yourself, but not appearing in a book on any of the pictures, just your mom and your daughter appears there?
I'm too there. One picture.
You are?
Yes, one. And then, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then it's incredible. You just open the book and you find the pictures.
It's magic.
So, yes, here. And it's in this book, and it will be the only book where I'm appearing in a way there. And there is too another another picture with my daughter somewhere. You know, a picture like that, it's not a grave, but it could be one. Or grave, you know. It's symbolic in the way that's my passport of my Italian grandfather and so on and so on. And it's really about, yes, recollection of picture of, that's my mother's abroad, that's my daughter, and so my mother. So there, but I'm here. And a little bit is my daughter when she was 2 years or something like that. You know. So it's, in there is just the process of, as I said before, to get the disappearing of my mother, which is a little bit a disappearing of myself. I just realized before as I was hearing you, and it was true, and this book helped me, or this work helped me to stand up, to stay, to 1 year standing up, to be there and not falling apart, because I just felt a lot of time that I was falling apart, and I could not accept that my mother is going to die. It's not possible. My mother will never die. So it was to the little child who tried to grow up as quick as possible to be an adult when she was dying. I don't know if you would understand. Maybe some of you felt that. No? But something like that. And it works, by the way. I'm here.
Was it a natural decision that the first part of the book is with a poem and the second part is with a, let's say, essay?
It was not a decision. It just was always more with my intuition, with my sensibility, with the, every poems I wrote them when I came back from this EHPAD, from this house full of people, degenerated people, where she was, to give me a strength to go there again. Or I wrote before the poems to have the strength to go there, and so on. So it was something like that. And when I had this poem, I would just say, well, the picture. And I had no picture. Then I had this one. Yeah, you see. And it was, I don't know, I met someone who told me, okay, a book about the death of your mother. And then, he said, wait, and then. That's why I say, and then, yeah, and then I'm here. I had all this biographic work I did with a memorial circle, where I more or less got a relation to the immigration of my Italian family. I found that they immigrated always already in the 19th century, always like that, where there is work, they were there, and they were there, and in 4 countries of Europe and wars, and so on and so on. And myself, I went too, so I said exile, and myself, I went away from the country where I'm born. So I got out of this circle. That's why I say resurrection.
Maybe we could ask our audience, if you have any question, please raise a hand. Okay, we approach with that mic.
First of all, forgive my bad English. I would like to take a question to Hubert, because your work, in some way, even if it's quite different, reminded me of the work of Seliman Body Farm. Do you know it?
Yes, I know.
Yes. Seliman took photos to bodies that were decomposing for scientific issue matters, of course. And of course, to bury bodies is something important for a matter of hygiene. But I was wondering, how do you relate to the action of burying people and bodies? And could it be the last taboo to let death completely to nature? What about it? What do you think about it? It's quite difficult, I know.
Like I mentioned, I first started this project questioning myself if I would like to be a tree after I passed away. And I found my answer, yes. What kind of tree I would like to be? I would like to be a beech tree. I like to imagine this in this way, that I have a gray bark and so on. So, for instance, in Poland, you have regular cemeteries like stones, grey, sad. Here in Scotland, I met family during the Sunday walk with a dog through this kind of forest, and it was totally different experience. They were laughing, they were I don't know how it's memorizing the person who passed away, some loved one who passed away, yeah, maybe in Poland it's forbidden to bury people outside the cemeteries. I think in France it's the same, but in Great Britain, in the Netherlands, in Germany, legislation is going forward and allowing people, people who are buried there, they can be buried with a service, in Christian service, Catholic service, or Jewish or whatever. They're not necessarily people who believe in nature or something. So I hope it's gonna be the future of maybe it's kind. I don't know if I'm answering to your question, but I hope it's gonna be the future of thinking about ourselves, that we are a part of the nature, that we belong to the nature. And as I mentioned, if we are in a regular coffin in the normal clothing, we are polluters, and we don't need to necessarily be polluters. We can add something, we can give something to the nature that we own the nature.
Yes, and my question was quite difficult. I was wondering how the fact that the body is immediately out of your sight because it's in the soil, how do you relate to this fact? Does it feel the same as feeling of nature to hide your sight from the fact that the body is just decomposing? It is something that let you overcome to death, or something that you miss because you need to see where bodies just go? Hope you have understood.
Yes, these places are different. Some, of course, I focus on the places that are forest, true forest, and the people are buried in the forest. You know, like it's well, maybe it's too much, but it's like with the God. Some people goes to the church and they finding God in the church, and some people go to the forest. I think someone needs a service and someone needs a walk through the forest. I'm thinking in this kind of way. It's not scaring me at all. It's giving me like this comfort, and I feel comfortable with this idea that I'm a part of the forest. This is a human forest. Other people laying here, and it's not necessary that it might be here at the spot. I would like to stay in the memories of my my family, my kids, my grandkids, yeah. So that's it, and this is. And when I'm like referring to this family during the Sunday walk in Scotland, I would like to be this kind of memorized, and when they thinking about me, just laying there, it's a nice walk. We have fun, and we can think about him Yeah. So it's not scaring me. Basically, when you mentioned about Saliman, this is scary. Like for mostly people, she did this project in a special way. She spread it in the black and white collodion, and this is very oniric with the filter of the dead. And also, you can find there like color images. These are very straight. Like it shows that in one way. It's not easy to deal with this when you say it. And here you're laying in a nice forest.
Yes, of course.
Surrounded with birds singing.
So burning is still necessary.
Yes.
Of course. Thank you.
If I can add something, because we were talking about taboo, and we talked about the relationship we have with death, but we didn't talk about society's relationship that it had with death, because in fact this is the main taboo in our society, and we don't see death anymore. And maybe it was more visible during COVID-19, but it's still complicated to show it, and so maybe we did this book also to see death, because when you go to in other societies you can see it, for example in India, or I lived in Senegal, and you have death everywhere because people are just buried all the time. And so it's very important, and it's also very important to thank our publishers, because it's really complicated to do a book about death. And they said to me, okay, it's going to be complicated to sell it, but we are going to do it because we need to do it. So I think
I can say something about it.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's also important when you are talking about taboo, that we have to overcome it as a society altogether.
I have a question for Christine. I wanted to know like more about so you talked about the resurrection of yourself doing this book. Like I lived a similar experience of yours, and I wanted to know like why it was possible for you to talk about resurrection, doing this thing, to like do this book, to deal with the loss of your mother. So if you can talk more about that.
Yeah. I'm going to try because it's in English. It was, I did not feel the resurrection at the beginning. I did not know I was in this process. I just realized, even as I wrote the last sentence, toujours la vie va, always the life. I translate, is going on, but it's stronger in French, la vie va, because this sentence is strange in French, toujours la vie va. And I just felt that kind of the transmission. She was not telling a story of an immigrated girl, young woman, and so on. She married a Frenchman, so a product of that. And I just had to fight against her, as I said, because she was a very strong woman, and I think I'm strong too. So I could not go and do what she wants I should do, to be an integrated French girl. And so I went away. I went in exile. So I reproduced the story of my family since 2 years, several years, to go in exile. And this exile, I felt in me. And with this book, and the poems I was writing were really poems full of love and sadness and resistance. People would say resilience. No, it's a word. And second, in the second recollection of picture and the text, I was kind of healing me of inspiration. And while I was this process of healing me, I really felt her. She came in me. practically. I'm sorry I'm speaking like a baby, but maybe you feel what I'm saying. So it was transmutation. It was transmutation. And I said this book at the end of the whole memorial circle. We saw 4 books. And I was anyhow approaching the end of the process. And that with this book and what I did, I could close the process. I'm not in exile anymore. I'm just different, but I'm not in exile, and I have this strength. That's why I'm calling a resurrection.
I'd like to ask about the book form itself. Do you see the book form, anybody wants to answer it, do you see the book form as a kind of surrogate tombstone, a full stop? Or is the very fact that it's a book, that it's printed 200, 500, 2,000 copies, the fact that it's a continuation, is it a kind of something between resurrection and reincarnation, the book itself? How does the book itself relate to death?
Yeah, what's interesting on books is that they often get to be kind of eternal because of the way they spread and the many copies, and you can reprint them again and again. And there are almost no books that have been, even in auto-da-fe and all, you always have some copy that survived, even if when they try to attend to their life. So there is something, eternal. So yes, this connection that is really interesting. Oh, the difference with the movie, if it's analog, like first it's more fragile and you need to have access to the machine to play it, which has technology that gets replaced, and now it's files and it's the same.
And about the movie or files, it's like the book, you will be able to see it in 200 years, 300 years, maybe, if it goes this way. But for example, a movie we can see, and even files today that are digital, we don't know if we're going to be able to see it. So doing a book, it's literally being possible to see it in 2,000 years, maybe. Even like the Egyptian, we can still see some stuff. And in this way, I think, it's interesting because you can see it also even if you have no technology at all. So it's okay, maybe not more democratic because you need to, but it's a more natural way to get with it.
I look at this in a different way. I can't remember, probably it was Umberto Eco. He said we have a book and it's like an adventure. It's like a life. We're starting this, pretty excited, then we're going through, and then we are a bit disappointed because it's ending. We got used to the characters and so on and so on. With photographic books, I think it's a different thing because we have images, partially less text than images, and we can go back to this book. Of course, with the regular book also we can read it once again, but it's not the same adventure. Here we have images, so if we are in different mood, we can go back and back and back. So I'm thinking in this way about you.
One maybe provocative question. I don't have the words, so maybe someone will have to translate. Do you really think it's useful to apprivoiser? Anyone who know how to translate apprivoiser? Apprivoiser la mort.
Is it a meaning to try to approach death?
To try to control death,
Yeah.
somewhere like even artistic or photographic or making terms of. It's also because I knew the work of André Chabot before, and I see he spent all his life doing this, and at the end, how is he dealing with it? André is the first to say that he is very afraid of death, so. It obviously doesn't really work, but it ended up being some kind of obsession. But I don't know if it's useful to try to approach death, but what I find interesting in trying to make books or step by step talking about those topics through exhibition is to simply being able to speak about it, because I personally find it really hard to find places to speak of death in our society. Maybe it's just a personal feeling, but I really think that what you were saying is true. It's a real taboo, and it's kind of little action to open discussion about this and try to integrate this more in our society and even on a psychological level, because this taboo about death, I think, creates most of the fear we have even on a society level. And fear often brings to bad things.
Yeah, I meant like personally. Not, I know that yes, in terms of society, it's really important, but personally, does it work?
Yeah, for me personally it worked because, for example, my grandfather, it was really easier to mourn him. Like I didn't know even if I cried for when he died, because I was used to the fact that he was going to disappear. And so yeah, for him it worked. For my grandmother, it was more sudden, but it in a way it worked also. And for me, yeah, it worked also. I think I'm not afraid of this. No, so maybe it worked, but maybe I was not afraid before. I don't know.
Lucky you. Like I mentioned before, it's a kind of dealing with mortality, but might also be, for me, it's impossible. There are always all this culture, all these images. We're trying, and it's good, but for me, it's impossible for 100% to deal with this. And yes, I'm okay. We need to talk later on. So, but we shouldn't avoid this this approach. We shouldn't. I think so. We shouldn't avoid this topic. It isn't like in kind of cartoon that we close our eyes and bad would disappear. So, if we talk about this, we getting more and more comfortable with this topic, I guess, and I hope. But for 100%, I doubt. Like you.
So I'm not answering personally. I just want to evoke what I said before. I show you the picture.
Let's wait. Let's check.
Le tocsin. Of my mother. I photography my dead mother. And it was an exhibition in the Maison de la Photographie Robert Doisneau. And it was during the whole autumn until February. And this exhibition, collective exhibition, so I had this picture was among the other picture, and two other pictures of two other dead from which meant a lot to me. And he just asked exactly, the director was wondering what's happened with the post-mortem photography in Europe. Why it's not existing anymore? Because since the beginning of the photography, more or less the first photography, the first impulse of photography was photographing the dead, and even the dead children and the dead. And it was a whole ritual. They were really beautiful clothes and maybe sometimes sitting, and so in mise en scène, in Inszenierung, help me.
Stage.
Oh yeah, okay, you understand. And from the 15th, 1950, les années 50, 50 years, He disappeared. He disappeared. More the people used camera more, then this disappeared. And he was asking why. I don't know if we have the answer, but he was very courageous, the director, to do that. At the beginning, when he spoke about this project, people said, the profession, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Nobody will come there. Nobody. And people came and came and came and came and came. A lot of visitors. So it means that people need it. People need. We are in social context, in situations which are terrible. I'm not learning you anything, And to speak about death, to show death in a way, in a way, we need it. We really need it. Because it's with the death that we are constructing ourselves and constructing the generation which are coming after us. That's my point of view.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much, Lia. Thank you very much, Yann. Thank you very much, Hubert. Thank you very much, beautiful audience. We encourage you to go through the books and to talk to the artists directly here by the table so where they can sign the book that you